Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Dr. Katherine Horton. With me is Melanie Vritschan in Brussels. And today we are giving you an update about the human body scanning that we did in Belgium just a few days ago. So I would like to pass the microphone to Melanie Vritschan to explain how the whole thing went down. And then we've got more news for you.
Yes, hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Katherine. Pleased to be back again with news. Yes, indeed, as Katherine said, last week we had the calibration scanning, which means is that we tested various scanning methods in view of setting up the scanning protocol. And we're currently waiting for the results. And we had also a good discussion with the professors there, and we made them aware of the recent broadcast that came out called In Search of Mind Control on the History Channel, where there was the court case of James Walbert that was shown, who was the first victim, I think, in the United States to bring forward a successful court case because he had been non-consensually implanted by a business rival. And he was able to prove that. And he also shows there the CT scans where you can very clearly see the devices that have been implanted in his body. And he won his court case. And I think now the defendants are in prison. So that was the first successful court case. And what was interesting also is that he mentioned that before in the United States there were no laws against non-consensual implantation, and when you even mentioned an implant you were immediately called delusional and paranoid, whereas now they have 21 laws against non-consensual implantation. And so this was also for me an inspiration, because we're working here with the European Parliament, with the members of the European Parliament, to actually enact appropriate EU legislation to ban this kind of technologies within the EU and later then hopefully internationally. So that for me was very interesting to see, to hear. So we had the opportunity to show this broadcast course to the professors. So as Katherine said, we're now waiting for the results, and as soon as we have them, we will then proceed to invite our ICATOR members for the scanning. We also have, in the meantime, received an invitation by another European university in another European country. I will not say yet where that is, to scan victims there. So that seems it's kind of promising for us, because it shows that more and more research institutes, more and more universities, take notice of this problem, become aware of this problem, and actually are ready to work with us to fine-tune scientific methods to provide the victims of the scientific evidence of the crimes committed against them. Katherine had quite an interesting episode, I would say, when she drove back. Maybe some of you will remember that I said last time that I'm sure that any attempt to bring her off the road or to provoke an accident, as happened various times before when she tried to come, would fail. Katherine, maybe you can tell us what happened on your epic way back.
Yes, I can. So actually on the way, by the way, I should say I've just looked at the chat and I realized that people were complaining that they couldn't hear me and that they missed the intro. Maybe it was cut off, but maybe it's also the case that my bandwidth is very low. So I just would like to ask the chat, can you guys confirm if you can hear me all right? Or is there any echo or any disruption of my audio? Okay, fantastic. Thank you for messaging back. As you can see, I'm somewhere else. I'm not home. You can see the wooden paneling here behind me. And that's because I had to flee my flat again because of the attacks on me. So I'm now at an undisclosed location somewhere in Switzerland, where there's enough rock around me that I actually feel a lot better than at home. But yes, so this is my current life. But as Melanie mentioned, on the way to Brussels, after Melanie made a really big thing emphasizing that there's no point trying to attack me on the road yet again, I actually had a really peaceful drive. So I drove from Zurich to Brussels in one go. And it was just, I was amazed that it wasn't just peaceful, but actually the gang stalkers kept their distance. And even when I was approaching speed cameras, a gang stalker would pull out and slow me down because I was going quite a pace. I had to make it all the way to Brussels, slow me down. And then after the speed camera would pull off so that I can, go ahead. I thought this was a really neat service, by the way. So, it happened, I think it's 6 or 7 speed cameras. And I thought, yeah, that's, finally, the intelligence agencies are, doing something beneficial for society. But anyway, on the way back, what happened is that somebody smashed into my car from behind. And it wasn't, I don't think it was an accident, because it happened at exactly 16 o'clock, 16 minutes. Which in the bullshit numerology of the criminal cartel and the intelligence agencies equates to 7-7, which is an Intel reference. And also, I was in a stop-and-go traffic jam, so it's ideal, really, to cause accidents if you're using trainee agents, because you're not going at high speed and it's kind of controllable. And the car behind me had already stopped, so we were in the stop-and-go traffic jam for at least, I would say, 10 minutes or, something like that. And then eventually, I was slammed from a car that was also bright orange from the back. So this woman knew my car was there. She just didn't step on the brakes. But there was another thing that was highly unusual, which I only remembered afterwards, because, I mean, these situations do take you by surprise. But I had noticed that the car ahead of me was, in that moment, shortly before I was hit, was not moving with the traffic. It's almost as if it stayed behind, was waiting for something, and then I was, bam, hit from the back. So I actually suspect that the plan was to hit me from the back, make my car smash into the car in front, and then blame the accident on me, or at least the front part of the accident, so that I incur, damages. And this happened just outside Strasbourg, so on French territory. And the car that smashed into me was French. And so I also have another suspicion about the woman. It was also a young woman, early 20s, so exactly Intel, recruits type. And another suspicion that I really have was, because I was hit, I immediately got out and I checked first the car in front, but there was thankfully still like half a meter, 40 centimeters or so to the next car. So I thought, yes, my brakes held. And then I went to the back, and we agreed to drive off at the next exit to actually exchange details. But then when I arrived, I got out, and my very first sentence to her was, well, I have to inform you about something. I'm going to have a very close look at your papers now. This is not against you, but it's because every single time I drive to Brussels and back, she saw that I've got a Swiss car. Every time I drive, I experience an assassination attempt. Okay, somebody tries to kill me on the road. And now on this drive, you actually smashed into me. So, forgive me if I'm suspicious, but my job is to fight Secret Service criminality. And that's why I get a hit almost every single time. Now, if you tell a story like that to a normal person, I would expect at least a micro expression, or at least maybe a macro expression, of either, eyebrows up, a surprise, even just for a fleeting moment, or maybe a frown, as if, to say, what the fuck are you on about? Or do you really think I'm an agent, you stupid woman? Or some sort of reaction like that. But she was just like a statue, like flat, nothing whatsoever. And otherwise, she was cool as a cucumber. So it wasn't shock. It was literally just like, I mustn't show any reaction. And sometimes for me, the lack of data is the evidence. So she did not react like a normal person would react. And I thought, okay, if we tot up all the curiosities here, which is that, again, on the drive back from a body scanning, I'm somehow involved with something dangerous happening on the road. What are the chances of that? What are the chances of that happening exactly at 16 hours, 16 minutes on my car clock? Exactly. And I have to add that when I first started being targeted, a lot of things used to happen exactly in these hour patterns. So at 15 minutes past 3 o'clock, and so on. So that was typical. It's a bright orange car, and orange cars are very rare. The car in front also doesn't drive with the traffic exactly the moment when I'm hit from behind, and it's a very young woman, and she doesn't show any micro expressions that I would expect, you know. So overall, I have to say I am blaming this entire episode because of the statistical unlikelihood of these things totally on the head of domestic French intel. And this is actually great because I have this court case running where I'm a court expert. So for Frederic Laroche in France, and he was involved in a fake car accident. So in a sense, we have now two potentially fake car accidents, also in my case, on French territory connected to the same case. And to me personally, it seems like French intel has some, fake car accident staging going on. And another reason why it's great is because French intel has already involved me in a near lethal military test on French territory when I used to work at CERN. So the near car accidents on French territory had now a series of 3, if not more. And I'm actually very, very pleased the whole thing happened. The bad news is the back of my car smashed up, but it's not too bad. The back door still closes. But it's unfortunate because the car that smashed me was a Ford EcoSport, and it's a bit higher than my, what's it called, the back bumper. So it smashed right into my back door. And the car that smashed me just had the number plate bent, and the entire back of my car is a bit dented. But I actually thought overall it's a valid price to pay for what I'm going to get out of this evidence. But also I have to say that this car was actually used to belong to my grandfather, who was murdered in the hospital Baden-Baden in the year 2010, actually in my presence, and I only understood that very recently. And this car used to belong to him, and after he passed away, that was basically in his will that I should get it. So it's the last present from my grandfather that French intel just smashed up, as far as I can make out. So at this point, it's actually personal. I have a massive issue with Patrick Calvar, the head of domestic intel, and I'll do my absolute best to really take him to task over this. So this is the story of the car accident on Friday. I released a short video explaining what had happened, but I also, since then, I have received many, many messages from other victims who experienced car accidents, and many more damaging and threatening and injurious than the one I've been involved in. And all I can say is that on the affidavit template, there is a big section related to car sabotage and car accidents. And I encourage you to write up everything that happened to you, put in the evidence either from the insurance, requested from the insurance, or other evidence you have, like photographs, and put it in, because car accidents and the staging of them is one of the staple things that the intelligence agencies do. It's their day job. So, if you put it all together, we can also show a pattern that these car accidents, just like poisonings and biorobotization and attacks, are just their standard operating procedure, So anyway, I just wanted to emphasize that if you have been involved in a car accident, yes, it really is worth your effort requesting the information from your insurance, or from your lawyers or from the police again, and putting it into your court bundle. It is actually important so that we can save lives in future by taking them to court over this now. So that's what I wanted to say.
I would like just to jump in, because you spoke about the military and the intelligence services and also lawyers. I was in contact just before with our American sister organization, Keep the Ethical Light Burning, KELP, and with Lynn Reed, who was working in close cooperation with the main lawyer who defended the veterans against the CIA and the Department of Defense, I think, in a lawsuit that went on for years. And one of the issues there was that one of the claims of the veterans was that there had been actually non-consensually experimented on with controlled radio frequency devices, which are now called brain chips. Commonly. So, and it was very interesting. I then saw an interview that this lawyer, who unfortunately is now deceased, had given on RT to explain about the court case and the claims. And actually, after a long legal battle, they won. I will look later if I cannot find the link to this court case. And the thing is that they won. So against CIA and the Department of Defense. And they could prove their claims. But unfortunately, as they are part of, they were soldiers, they were part of the military, a law stipulates that they cannot claim financial compensation. So what they're actually getting is health care, and for them, for all the medical, the health problem that this non-consensual implementation was a consequence of, and other, very unethical medical experiments were done on them, like drug testing, and so all of the health problems that they're now dealing with, and also for their and their families, they get care, health care and psychological care, I think, but they can not claim financial compensation. Well, this is not the case for people like you and me, for ordinary citizens, because we're not in the military, and so this clause does not apply. So we can and we will claim financial compensation, of course. But it was interesting that they won. And I think this was, in the 50s or 60s. So, miniature controlled radio frequency devices are not a new phenomenon. They've been around, at least since the 50s, and are well documented. But I thought it was hopeful that they finally won. And I saw this interview with their lawyer, and Gordon Espama, and he did explain that the purpose of these experiments were indeed and to create so-called Manchurian candidates to control people or these human beings from a distance, and also to talk to them in their head via these implants. So all this was proven, and so this was, maybe 50 years ago. So this is just to say that this is not a new problem, And in their manuals, CIA said very clearly that these tests had to be done on unwitting citizens. So literally take people off the street and subject them to this very criminal medical experiments. So I'll later pop the link to this court case. I thought that was interesting. And regarding the scanning, the project will continue. Thank you very much to all donors so that we could come that far. And to be able now to scan our members, we would like to ask you furthermore for your support, because as you know, this is not for free. It is great that we have this collaboration. I think it's great and encouraging that we have now other universities that come to us and that request our collaboration and are interested in this kind of project. Katherine, maybe you could show them again how people can donate if they want to contribute to our research. There are two ways to do that. Basically, if you're in the Eurozone, Katherine will show this, you have the ICATOR IBAN number. So that way we don't have any bank charges. And if you want to donate and support us and you're not in the Eurozone, there's also a GoFundMe page you can donate to, so that we can go on with the scanning project. Katherine is just showing it.
Yeah, so here this is the ICATOR website. So ICATOR with a C.be for Belgium, where Melanie is. And this is now the bank details are here. The ICATOR bank transfer details, which is, as Melanie said, ideal if you're in Europe or especially in the Eurozone. You just do a direct bank transfer and all the money arrives. And then for the people in America and elsewhere, maybe the GoFundMe is best here under this link. Sorry, my bandwidth here is not as high as at home. And then here you can click on donate now and it takes you through to the GoFundMe page. But you find both over the ICATOR website here. And then you just press this button to donate. And as Melanie said, so all the, these funds are being used to continue the collaboration with the university. And, the real idea.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, exactly, hopefully. And really my goal is to teach as many people how to find these chips so that everywhere around the world, victims can contact universities. And I'm trying to write up some instructions and maybe, give these instructions to a physics or engineering department The only thing you need is a Faraday room, but many universities do have them. And inside the room, you can check, scan for these body chips. You need fairly advanced equipment to get a really good measurement. But universities should have that, especially if it's an engineering department. So more and more is being done with electromagnetic radiation. So many universities are equipped for that anyway. But as I said, I'm working on writing that up and writing up how to do it so that, because we can't travel absolutely everywhere where there are victims, and we are more than happy to help you, set it up. But we need to somehow, get rid of all the bottlenecks that hold people back, which is why I'm always in favor of just making all the ingredients public so that people can imitate, duplicate, and especially improve on these things. Because it might be that you find some measuring devices that are even better, or a method to detect these chips that's maybe cheaper, better, and easier than what we currently know. And that's always possible. In fact, I'm pretty sure. I mean, in science, there's always, in hindsight, a better way of doing things once you know what you're looking for. And we should get to the better way as quickly as possible. So this is the long-term plan. And to put it into practice, this is why we are raising the funds. But I have to say, so this scanning went fine, and apart from the car accident, it was, without any incidents. And now we're waiting to get the results back from the university and have that all, ironed out. So that's the thing. You also mentioned, Melanie, you mentioned just now, as I was reading the chat, you also mentioned the documentary. Did you already mention that?
Yes, I mentioned on the history, on the channel history, there was this documentary that is called In Search of Mind Control. I think I mentioned it at the beginning. As we had audio problems, I'm not quite sure that our viewers could hear us, so I'll say it again. This was a documentary on history which showed the court case of James Walbert, who was the first victim in the United States that could actually prove the non-consensual implantation he had fallen a victim to. He was implanted non-consensually by a business rival and then tortured by a microwave weapon from the distance and via this technology that was interacting with his nervous system. And he could prove all this, and he brought the perpetrators to court, and he won his court case. So it was very interesting to see that. Maybe we can, or you already put the link, I think, down there to the show, so that our viewers can see this as well. And we were actually able to show the professors this broadcast, because as we always explain, they are also new to the subject. So we kind of learning together. And I think it is a very important, what Katherine said, is that in fact, you have to fine tune your measurement method. And it's really a learning process, also for them, also for us. But the idea is, of course, to really find out the best measurement method, and that we can then sort of set up, as Katherine always says, a production chain. So that once the measurement protocol is fine-tuned and that we agree on this, and this is the best and the most effective method of getting positive results, that we can then invite all our members and scan over towards this protocol and get then hopefully the positive results that we need also for the victims. So yes, I mentioned this. I put two more links here. The first one is the RT interview with this lawyer, Gordon Esparma, who defended the CIA veterans in their lawsuit, where one of the claims was, and proven claims was also, that they were non-consensually implanted with radio frequency control devices. And the second one is, that's the interview, and the second one is the link to our sister organization, Keep the Ethical Lights Burning, that Lynn Witt sent me recently, and where this court case is explained with all the court documents. And so our viewers can have a look. I think it was very interesting. Yeah.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm copying and pasting. So Melanie just pasted it in the local chat on our broadcast, and I'm just pasting it in So you will find in the description, if you expand, three links at the moment. I've put them in. The first one is the In Search Of. Then the next one is this YouTube video, the US military creating Manchurian candidates. And then the other one is about this, the Vietnam vet cases. So let me just, let's just load this. So if, okay, I've just saved the changes. So if you refresh the page, the video page, and you click on the description below the video, so you just have to click on show more down here if you're watching on YouTube, and then you will find the 3 links mentioned on the show just now, and then below that a long list of general links about all sorts of cases. And also, just a moment ago, I mentioned the case of Frederic Laroche. In the general description, the case of Frederic Laroche. So it is in the section below under general links. That's the second link. And what you will find there also is I've uploaded a new video that Frederic Laroche made of scanning his mother, who turns out to be also implanted. So both Frederic and his mother have a chip implant at the same point in the back of the head. And we know from a microwave weapons expert that that is actually a very traditional place of implanting people. So agents and pilots were traditionally implanted in the neck and also typically just above the hairline, because then you couldn't actually see the surgery scar, and that's where all these RFID chips were typically implanted. So the victims of the implantation locations of the victims follow known implant locations that the intelligence agencies and the air forces around the world have been using for very, very long time. So again, it adds credibility to these cases, and also, very important, it highlights that targeting can affect entire families and it can be generational. And there are victims who said to me things like, well, their father was in a prisoner of war camp in Nazi Germany, or in territories occupied by Nazi Germany. And this is a line of investigation that I'm certainly pursuing, that maybe what happened is that something that your parents or your grandparents did, or something that happened to them, got you onto these Nazi lists around the world. And then they did experiments on you and your entire family over generations, and that's how you find yourself in this program now. I think that also happens, and I would like to stress that there's I think at least one book published on the topic about IBM having supplied early data management systems and early day computer systems to the Nazis, with the old punch cards, those people who have programmed in Fortran, I think the Fortran, the one before Fortran 77 was still for punch cards. And these punch card systems have apparently been around in the 1940s already. And the Nazi leadership had these computers from IBM, okay, and used that to keep track of people and catalog people for prisoner of war camps and Nazi concentration camps, and also for the population. So I would wager that if you ended up on these IBM lists back then in the 40s, you and your family stayed on, and it has been carried over into some modern day equivalents, not using punch cards anymore, but still using the same data management and database systems. So I consider that highly likely that this is where this targeting comes from, because we know that the Nazis did human experiments, and they were very interested in genetic experiments and long-term experiments affecting genetics, and you do that ideally over generational observation. So something to think about, and something for the individual victims to dig around in the family history for, so and as always.
To mention this, because we're talking about court cases, I think this history broadcast was very good. It's a good start for also mainstream media to report on these crimes, and it was good to see this successful court case by James Walbert. He's now really considered a pioneer, but I'm pretty sure we will see more of these court cases in future. And also, I think it was interesting to see that actually he used the same private investigators that our European group here used. with the same results. And also that I think with the scanning project, it also once again confirms that we're on the right track with getting the scientific proof we need. So I would like to thank also this journalist who's also an actor, Zachary Quinto, I think is his name. And didn't you say, Catherine, that he played Mr. Spock or? So I think it's great that he takes an interest in these things and that he did this broadcast, and we hope to see more of them very soon, as we will also see, I think, more court cases that victims of these new technologies. Although they're not actually that new, as we heard that the CIA already implanted the soldiers, the veterans, Vietnam veterans, non-consensually in the 50s and 60s, I think. So it's not that new, actually.
Yeah, it's not new at all. If anything, we are waking up to the fact that it's known that the military and all these classified projects are classified for about 50 years. And if you hear about technology today, it's safe to assume that it was around 50 years ago. And then also before anything gets classified, the cartel has its own secrecy. So, you can add maybe a decade to that. So if something is around now, it was certainly around 50 to 60 years ago. This is something we should keep in mind when we are assessing reports today, because if it's experimentation, it is experimental technology, and this means it will be at least 50 years ahead of time, right? Because whatever they experiment on now is what they will declassify in 50 years time, So this is certainly true. Actually, talking about the presenter of this documentary, so he played the young Mr. Spock in the remakes, and the show In Search Of was presented by the actor who originally played Mr. Spock. And when we mentioned, Mr. Spock to the professor, it was very funny because he said, "Oh yeah, I used to be a fan of Star Trek, so I'll definitely have a look." And that was very, very funny, really. So,
yeah, I think it was good that we were able to show it to them, because it made it really more real to them again, and it really brought the issue home, I think. And maybe it's not a coincidence that shortly afterwards we got this offer by another university to work with them. So we'll look at this, and it's certainly something we'll pursue.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I have to say, just on the by is that it still does amuse me that, when an actor, a well-known actor, is involved, even though he's an actor, I mean, he played Star Trek, for goodness sake, okay? The whole thing was made up, okay? So, but still, even though he was an actor in a made-up show, it lends credibility to crimes that are now scientifically established over and over. And it reminds me of a comment that Catherine Austin Fitz made, which is that she was trying to talk to her friends about what's happening in this corruption in the world, and she's talking about the space program and how many trillions have been stolen. And then I think there was something that she had been saying to her friends for a long time appeared on the TV show. Then her friend called her and said, "Oh yeah, what you said seems to be true because it's now on TV." And Catherine Austin Fitz said, "So you believe whatever is being shown on The Sopranos?" And her friend was honest enough to say yes. So it doesn't matter that you have one of the world leading experts in finance telling you something. You have to wait until it's on The Sopranos, and then people believe it.
Right. Okay, I think that was it for today. We'll hope that we'll get some more donations so we can go on with the scanning project. I'm really pleased, and we're very grateful that we already could take it that far, and that people have donated and supported us so far. It's so important because, unfortunately, there is no other institution, at least as I know, that the authorities do not do this kind of forensic work, which I think they should do. So we'll have to do it ourselves, and we'll see with the help, unfortunately, by non-corrupt scientists that want to do the right thing and want to support us. But of course, we could not have done it if we hadn't got your financial support until now. And we hope we'll get still a few donations that we can carry on with the project. And as soon as we have the results of the calibration scanning, Katherine and I will be back and convey these to you. So thank you very much. Have a nice Sunday evening, wherever you are. And well, see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Take care, and we'll be reporting back. Bye-bye.